Welcome to Where's My Mind, a podcast where we talk fascinating films and shred up birth certificates. I'm the black glove sworn in a Giallo movie, except they're not, because it's actually Breakfast at Tiffany's.
And I'm a frayed hair tie that you just can't throw away, Ryan.
I haven't had long hair in years, man, and I know that feeling.
You know the bad ones. That
I know, babe. I know the bad ones.
they've almost snapped, and you're nearly there.
You're just like, oh well. We're gonna go mainstream, and this might piss off a lot of listeners. And if it does, I'm sorry, but I don't care. We're talking kind of the last glimmer of old Hollywood, and when I say old Hollywood, I mean like maybe from the 40s through the 60s. Hampered by a major political event that I'm sure undoubtedly you are all familiar with. It's a perfect parody of Hitchcock, mixing in the best amount of humor, along with lots of suspense. We're talking about Charade from 1963. Honestly, I think I just one day I put in Audrey Hepburn in Amazon Prime search box, and I found this, and I was like, oh, she's in it? Okay, cool. Because a lot of it was free. I didn't know why it was free. I just knew it was free, so I just watched it, and I was like, okay, cool. It's a good, if you're not gonna watch Breakfast at Tiffany's because of the aggressive yellow face, then this is a good pick. Roman Holiday, from what I've seen, would be pretty good. Shows kind of a side of her that you don't typically see, a love interest for a significantly older man. She is in this movie, but you kind of don't think about that. You kind of are too busy dealing with other things to ignore the age gap she has with Cary Grant. It's 25 years, and if you think that's bad, I really hate to tell you that she was also in movies with Humphrey Bogart, Gregory Peck, and Fred Astaire in the 50s. Well,
and as we saw, the Matt shared an image of her with Ben Gazzara, so that was interesting as well.
Very interesting. I think that picture, I think she was older by then, so Sabrina's a fantastic, but we'll talk about in a minute. First Hepburn. Shame on you.
The movie starts with a lot of bonding with these two knuckleheads. So, that's kind of, you start off in a good place, is my opinion.
Yeah, you do. We can talk about production a little bit and the background and the cast and crew and whatnot. Because I know we told ourselves the next few episodes, all right, let's just keep it light. Well, no. No, it's not what we did.
The public grief processing the JFK assassination through cinema.
Okay, there was that. Yeah, okay.
Wow.
So it's been a little forgotten because of all that stuff. The word assassinated pops up twice in the script. And the producer / director, Stanley Donen, called the studio and was like, dude, we have to fucking change this. So they changed it to eliminate it in some of the older versions of this film. Yeah, it's very interesting. It started out as a script from Peter Stone. When he wrote it, it was called The Unsuspecting Wife. No studio would pick it up at the time. So he changed it into a serialized story in the Red Book magazine. And then that's when studios actually started noticing this story and were like, hey, we want to buy your script. And he was like, you're fucking stupid. With MGM, done with Gene Kelly, done with all the, musicals and whatnot, and had started to go independent. And he was like, all right, I'll sell it to you. So it's kind of funny. This movie almost kind of didn't happen after that. Donen wanted Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn to be the two leads initially. Audrey said she would do the movie with Cary Grant, and Cary said he would do it until he backed out at the last minute. So then Columbia, I think, who had been signed on as a distributor, Columbia was like, all right, let's do Natalie Wood and Warren Beatty. And that didn't work out for whatever reason. The casting for this movie almost killed it. Originally, Donen wanted both Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. Hepburn had said she would sign on only if Cary did it. And Cary initially agreed, but then ended up backing out. So then Donen went to Natalie Wood and Warren Beatty as the two main leads. Columbia Pictures, who was the distributor, said, no, let's not do that, which totally threw everything up in arms. By that point, Donen had left Columbia. Cary Grant calls back and is like, hey, I'll do it, but you have to change the script for, again, age gap reasons. He didn't want to be pursuing a younger woman in the film. That's kind of why you have Audrey Hepburn pursuing Cary Grant. Universal picks it up for distribution, and the film is actually able to be made. Aside from that, of course, we've already mentioned Stanley Donen has done the MGM musicals, Singing in the Rain. He was a Broadway dancer before becoming a Hollywood choreographer. Just a lot of things with Gene Kelly, but that relationship kind of fell out because Gene Kelly, I think we now know, is a bit of an asshole. It's hard to watch Singing in the Rain with that knowledge in the back of your head, no matter how happy-go-lucky that film is.
Yeah, when you have an actor that just is a known jerk, it does throw.
What's his co-star's name? That, like, the other guy in that movie. I, like, enjoyed watching him so much more than Gene Kelly. I mean, I'm happy it ended well, but I was just like, oh my god. Yeah, so after Charade, Donen went on to go do lot of other genres. I think another Hepburn film he did was Two for the Road, which is also quite good. Very different tonally, in that it's kind of just looking at the realities of marriage and like falling out of love. It's very sad. It's very melancholy, but it's really good. I found the full thing on YouTube. He did some thrillers and musicals, and even at one point did a sex comedy called Blame It on Rio. No, I didn't watch it. I don't know if I want to. Yeah. So that's his history. So Peter Stone ended up kicking off his career with Universal Pictures after this film because of how big of a hit it was. He deserved that. As far as like some other things on this film, Charles Lang ended up on the film because Audrey really liked him. Him and her had been shooting Paris When It Sizzles right before this started shooting in Paris. And Charles Lang actually did not know they were shooting a totally different picture when this started. He just thought he was still shooting the same thing because it's Audrey Hepburn in Paris. At this point, he had lots of credits. He had already won an Oscar for Farewell to Arms. He had done Sabrina, Some Like It Hot, and The Magnificent Seven. So quite a storied career before this. Sabrina, I think, is fantastic. Aside from the disgusting age gap, the way he like differentiates the darks and the lights is like really pretty. So I did enjoy that film.
Peter Stone also was behind the taking of Pelham 123 with Walter Matthau and Martin Balsam.
Yes.
And it's just a wonderful Matthau comedy caper type story. So that's one that I think is really kind of notable in the Peter Stone.
Yes. Jean-André Duambon was the art director for this. He was a painter and sculptor in France before moving to the United States. He is a production designer. One of his last credits is Jess Franco's The Erotic Rites of Frankenstein. I just have questions.
Wow.
You sign on for anything, man.
That's range right there.
Very good. Yeah, so he's mostly a production and art designer. Another art director, Auguste Capelier, I think that's how you pronounce it, was also an art director, had done a couple of other films, namely Eyes Without a Face and Love in the Afternoon. The score is done by Henry Mancini, because it has to be.
Hell yeah.
He knocks it out of the park, as he always does, because we love Henry Mancini. And finally, Givenchy gets a credit because this is an Audrey Hepburn movie. She has to be wearing his clothes.
It's phenomenal style.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's like a little time capsule almost.
Mm-hmm.
As far as casting, of course, we've already talked about Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant plenty. Walter Matthau is in this as a CIA agent but he was mostly known for working with Jack Lemmon in things like The Odd Couple. A lot of these actors were in World War II before starting in Hollywood. It's also in the original Dennis the Menace, which I just find so strange. James Coburn plays Tex. George Kennedy is Scobie, who is fucking ginormous. He's a tall motherfucker.
Imposing. I mean, this is him at his playing a heavy.
He's scary.
Yeah, he's pretty frightening in this.
So yeah, he was in the army before this and won Best Supporting Actor for Cool Hand Luke. So another, Western actor. Yeah, and then everyone else in this film has had some small roles and whatnot. The man who plays the French inspector, Jacques Marin, he's dubbed in this film. He was mostly cast in small roles. If you needed a French-looking guy, you would get him. The Criterion commentary for this was super helpful. One thing that neither Donen nor Stone mention in that is how this film ended up in public domain. It's kind of funny because it's a bit of an oversight.
Yeah, this is probably one of the...
It's so, like, one of those, like, what the fuck?
When you told me this, I really just thought that, like, the information was incorrect. Not that you were not that you were incorrect particularly. It just was more like maybe this is maybe just something somebody is...
Someone fucked up.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Whoever did the title sequence fucked up, because you know how, like, every old movie, and, like, I'm kind of thinking, like, I don't know why, like, I think Universal Monsters with, like, their big title cards and whatnot, they would always have the year in Roman numerals. In the fine print during the title sequence, there's 1963 in Roman numerals. It's a bizarre omission, and it's that 1963 by Universal Pictures Company Incorporated and Stanley Donen Films Incorporated, all rights reserved. The word copyright does not appear, the abbreviation for copyright doesn't show up, the symbol does not show up. So this film went right into public domain. You can find it pretty much anywhere. It's on YouTube, it's on Internet Archive, it's even in the Wikipedia article for this thing. It's not a hard thing to find. This will be the most accessible film we ever do. The Criterion remaster, of course, looks fantastic. It's probably what's out there. It's so strange.
Well, like James Coburn's character is Tex Pant Hollow, I think is particularly wonderful because...
They call the other two guys by their, like, last name. It's like Scobie and Gideon, but then, like, yeah, with, like, it's just Tex.
Yeah, because the Pant Hollow part. I
no
don't
one
know
wants
if they
to
just,
say that.
Nobody wants. Yeah, it's this injection of like comedic last name.
So yeah, also like even though the film is not copyrighted, the music is. If you use that like outside the context of the film,
it's making it difficult for us.
But it's Henry Mancini, so like I understand.
We need Henry Mancini ripoffs that are public domain.
Someone send me Henry Mancini ripoffs. Oh God, this is bullshit. Yeah, most of the film was shot on location in Paris. There's two exceptions to this. The ski, both occurring within the first couple of scenes, namely a railway scene and the ski resort was shot in the Alps. But yeah, almost all of this was shot in Paris.
I didn't know that shot was in the Alps was real. I thought that was like the best matte painting I've ever seen.
It's not on location. It might have been shot at the studios. No, it's real. It's real.
Is it really? Huh.
It's in southeastern France. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a couple of... Yeah, so most of this was shot on location. Looks super good. And of course, as we said, this was released 3 weeks after Kennedy was shot.
I mean, it's the comfort food for a grieving nation. And you and I talked about the 30s musicals, like Depression era. People just want to escape to somewhere happier than their day-to-day existence. So
it's been pretty overshadowed. Yeah, I think the main reason this film is still well known at all is because it's kind of known as the Hitchcock that didn't have Hitchcock on the directing crew. North by Northwest, which, also stars Cary Grant coincidentally. A lot of the dialogue, though, is a lot more funny or, like, witty than a Hitchcock.
Yeah, Hitchcock doesn't do, like, the kind of quippy banter that we get really, like, right out of the gate. We know this is going to be a entertaining adversarial relationship.
But it's fun. And I like it. This film opens up by a railway, and a train goes by the camera. A man is thrown off this train, and he's fucking dead. And then we get our colorful credit sequence of Henry Mancini blaring in the background. And it's great, and there's lots of arrows and geometric figures. Even when the music's really smooth and whatnot, there's still kind of like that drum beat, that just consistent, not syncopated, but just, I think we would call it subdivision.
I think so.
A lot of that, and it's just kind of constantly going in the background.
The dead body is pretty violent.
Multiple dead bodies in this.
And for 1963, it seems pretty edgy.
You know what's also funny about that? Is they were like they were originally like this. I think Donen was originally like, is this too violent? But the studio was like, no. This movie isn't violent enough. We need this. But I mean, Psycho had come out 3 years before, so.
Yeah, there had to have been probably a little bit of competition there to just make sure we have this box checked.
Yeah, but like Psycho is in black and white. This isn't.
No, but the bloody dead body next to the train is effective, and right out of the gate, you're just
It is like, okay, starting off with a bang.
And it's contrasted with Mancini's happy-go-lucky music. So you've just watched a violent murder, and you're ready to go.
It's a good time. After that sequence, we cut to a resort in the Alps as Reggie Lampert is eating, and then there's a gun pointed at her.
By a child.
It's a child. There is a grown-ass man holding that gun for that shot, for sure, but then it's just a little water gun, and like her nephew's behind it. And her first line is, "Don't tell me you didn't know it was loaded."
Don't tell me you didn't know it was loaded.
Yeah, the dad jokes start right out of the gate.
Not even a dad joke, just like very deadpan.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got like these big giant sunglasses and like all this, like she's dressed in all like fur and whatnot. And like I think her sister comes over and like they're talking and she's like, "I'm getting a divorce." She's like, "I'm tired of my husband lying to me. I don't love him. He doesn't love me. I don't like this." Then Cary Grant pops up.
And I mean by pop up, like he literally is just standing, staring at the table.
He's like, yeah, he literally just they walk around and he just shows up and he's like, "Is this one yours?" And he has like the little nephew, Jean-Louis. And then like, so they start talking and so his name is Peter Joshua. And you get the iconic line of like, "You're blocking my view." And he's like, "Oh, do you want me to stop?" He's like, "Which view do you want?" She's like, "The one you're blocking."
You're blocking my view.
Oh.
I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
I love you.
You get shot with a water pistol, decisions are going to be made.
The immediate, I got shot with a water pistol, time to get divorced.
And then he shoots Peter. He shoots Cary Grant in the face.
He shoots Peter as well, and it's just like, it's a, you know what? As much as I hate children, it's a really cute kid.
Also, they both pass it off as like they're not actually going to do anything to the kid, which is good. Hey, good on them. Like, yeah. I mean,
they're not like, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you when we get home" or anything like that.
The audience wants that, though. The audience wants to slap the kid after that.
I don't mind the kid in this, for once. Apparently, both Reggie and Peter Joshua are flying back to Paris for reasons. They don't fly together or anything. That's just kind of a information tidbit that's thrown out there.
When she calls him Pete, she's like, "Do you go by Pete?" And he's like, "No, Mr. Joshua."
Mr. Joshua, that sounds suspicious.
Is there Mr. Lampert?
Yes.
Good for you.
No, it isn't. I'm getting a divorce.
Please, not on my account.
Oh, no, I don't really love him.
Well, at least you're honest.
Is there a Mrs. Joshua?
Yes, but we're divorced.
Oh, that wasn't a proposal. I'm just curious.
She ends up back in Paris with Louis Vuitton luggage.
That's what I wrote down. I was like, she has a lot of Louis Vuitton.
She has all the Louis Vuitton luggage because I guess her husband's rich. Yeah, it's just her apartment's empty and the local French police inspector comes in and is like, "Hey, your husband's dead. Here's his body. Is that him?" And she's like, "Yup."
Yeah, they're at the morgue and he's just like, does this look like his face, basically? She
just nods. She's not happy. Again, not happy. He asks her, "Did you love him?" And she just replies, "I'm very cold."
You loved him?
I'm very cold.
The house looks like it has a lot of mold going on. And the only thing I could think of is I was like, the mold knows. The mold knows.
Shut the fuck up. There's like, she's not involved with this whole murder thing. Did he have any family? What did he do for a living? That sort of thing. She doesn't know the answers to any of this shit. She's just like, "Dude, I'm sorry I can't be of more help." But like, I don't know. It is revealed that Charles sold the entire apartment. And I mean the entire apartment.
And he was found dead in his pajamas. So that's a note that
he was thrown off of a train.
Yeah, in his PJs.
He's the guy we saw thrown off of the train in his pajamas. So the total sum of all the things in the apartment, $250,000, which I believe translates to about $4.3 million today. So a lot of money. And then the inspector opens up an airline bag that they found, a stamped but unsealed letter, a key to the apartment, a comb, a fountain pen, a toothbrush, and some tooth powder. And then before Reggie is able to leave, the inspector goes, one more question. Is this your husband's passport? She goes, yes. And then he shows her another one and another one. She shows her like 5 passports. And she's just like, what? She's had no idea that like her husband had more than like a Swiss passport. Then she goes back to the apartment, and then Peter Joshua just fucking shows up. Yeah, your husband's death is in the papers. I'm really sorry about it. So she's planning to get her old job back as a translator. And she's like, dude, I know the police suspect me. That's the sort of thing that goes on here.
Do they end up going to... I mean, basically, it's just like, well, where is she now going to live? Because obviously...
They're like, why don't we get... Peter's just like, let's just get you a hotel for now. You know, cheap hotel so that like it's close enough to work. Then we cut to Charles's funeral.
One of the best sequences in this film. Top 5.
Absolutely. Very dry. So only Reggie and Sylvie are there. And then the inspector is in the background fucking clipping his nails.
Yeah, everyone does strange things regarding this funeral, which I'm
here for it. One man walks in and he just fucking sneezes all over the funeral. Sneezes all over the casket.
What next?
And it's like, well, that's gross.
What next?
Open casket too. I mean, he sneezes on his face, you know, it's...
And like Reggie is just like, I have never seen this man before in my life. I don't know who this is.
She doesn't even get angry.
No, she's just like, she doesn't get angry throughout most of this movie. She's just like, oh, well, there's another thing. Another man walks in and he puts a mirror under Charles's nose to see if he is breathing.
What next?
Because this is James Coburn.
It's James Coburn. James Coburn walks in, Tex.
And he's like, arrivederci, Charlie.
And walks over to Reggie and just is like, Charlie had no call of doing it that way.
Yep, I wrote down that exact quote because I...
Excuse me, Miss Lampert.
Never heard that phrase before, or term.
And I'm like, what? A third man walks in. George Kennedy, with all of his glory, just walks in and pricks Charlie's hand.
Yeah, he's dressed like the trench coat brigade kind of thing with this huge overcoat.
Yeah, he's the most intimidating out of these dudes. Because the first dude's kind of like, it's Gideon. He's like kind of...
Weasley,
yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention the actor that plays Gideon, Ned Glass. He had a bunch of bit parts. I think he was a bit part in West Side Story. He was actually blacklisted during the McCarthy years because he was using a fake name. He had to become a carpenter to like make ends meet before he was able to get back into Hollywood. So yeah, don't just accuse people of being communist without decent evidence, guys.
We get Walter Matthau.
Yeah. So I mean, before that, you just get this great line of like, after like George Kennedy's done whatever, you know, Reggie's just like, what next? And then this hand comes up from behind her and just fucking terrifies her. And it's a letter from the American embassy that's like, hey, come to my office. So yeah, she goes to Walter Matthau's office, who's playing Hamilton Bartholomew. So they're to talk about her husband's death.
Matthau's dressed very nice.
Yes.
It's a professional atmosphere.
Yes.
But he offers liverwurst or chicken. So that's...
And she's like, no, I'm good. And then he asks her, okay, do you know what the CIA is? And she's like, oh, is it spies and all that? It's like, nope, just agents. And then he tells her, yeah, Charlie was wanted by the CIA for stealing money from the government. And then she asks for a sandwich because you'll notice whenever Reggie gets nervous, she always gets hungry. And I understand that.
And Bartholomew is basically like, his name wasn't, you know, Charles in the way you know him. His name was Charles Voss.
Yeah.
So it's like we have this other angle.
This weird name thing. And she's just like, he starts calling her Miss Voss. And she's like, no. So he hands her a photograph taken during the war. One of the men is her husband. And then the other 3 men that she just has no fucking clue who they are. They're the 3 men from the funeral, and it's Tex, Gideon, and Scobie. So basically those 3 men think she has that $250,000. Yeah, and that money actually belongs to the government, and she has no idea where this money is. And we don't, as an audience, we do not know how she would have this money because all we know that she has is all that luggage just the couple things of Louis Vuitton luggage and whatever's in them, which is mostly clothes, if you're paying attention to this movie, because she has an outfit for everything. So she meets Peter Joshua in Paris at the historic puppet theater. Yes, this is a thing. Yes, it's still there, I believe.
Frightening.
Oh, fuck off.
Judy
just little
and Punch.
hand puppet. They're just little hand puppets.
You know, it's teaching kids about murder and domestic violence way too early, I think.
But it happens.
But yeah, it does.
Sorry you were sheltered as a child.
Popular with the little Satans.
The man and the woman are married.
Oh, I can see that. They're batting each other over the head. Who's that with the hat?
That's the policeman. He wants to arrest Judy for killing Punch.
What's she saying now?
That she's innocent. She didn't do it.
Oh, she did it all right.
I believe her.
That's what I wrote.
But yeah, but it's like the story that's going on is like this husband and wife are disagreeing about something, and then the police inspector gets involved because he thinks the wife killed her husband.
Yeah, Reggie's like taking kind of the Judy side of the...
She's just like, what the fuck is... She's like, but I didn't do it, and it's Charles, and she's fucking gone. It's just like, oh my God. So Peter's like, okay, I'm gonna cheer you up now. And they go to a French club where they play what I call the Orange Game. Stanley Donen actually learned this game at Gene Kelly's house way back in the day, so I found that funny. Basically, you just have an orange in your neck and you try to pass it to the other person using only your neck. And it's really funny to watch because there's just like happy-go-lucky band music in the background.
It's great to watch. I don't know about actually like participating in it.
Yeah. As a watching thing, it's so much better.
Yeah, the enjoyment it's there.
And so then Reggie, after a few minutes, Reggie gets the orange and then has to try to pass it to the next guy. And that next guy is fucking Gideon. And he begins intimidating her and like talking in her ear.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's so like, oh my God. So she gives him the orange and just fucking runs off. She's just like, he stepped on my foot. Even though she technically just kicked him out of there. And she goes and hides in a phone booth and goes to call Mr. Bartholomew. And then Tex finds her, the scary Texas guy. And then he starts dropping. He also intimidates her and begins lights a cigarette and then keeps dropping matches into her lap, which like apparently was real. And then she's just like freaking out. And then he leaves. And then, you know, she has a moment to light a cigarette. And then Peter Joshua comes in and is like, what's the matter? She freaks out and she's like, get the best line of this movie. I'm going to say that so many times. But like, you get the best line of like, I'm having a nervous breakdown.
I'm having a nervous breakdown.
Perfect. Perfect. Her delivery, her timing is just perfect.
And the fact that as if we didn't know this, she is telling us deliberately.
She has to tell us. I'm just looking. So they go back to the hotel, and then she's like, I can't tell you what's going on, but I do kind of flirt with you, but I'm gonna still flirt with you.
You said this afternoon your husband was mixed up in something.
How do you shave in there?
Just enough. She goes in her room, and George Kennedy is just in there.
Well, Peter jokes that she's a minor too.
Oh yeah,
He's
and
like, and says it, and then I mean, yeah,
dude, Audrey Hepburn's like in her 30s. Like, yeah, 25-year age gap, and I'm like, oh, okay, moving on. Yeah, George Kennedy is just in her room. Come to find out, he has like a mechanical hook hand, like it's a fake hand.
Well, and before that, he also offers her a spanking, which is
what
odd.
The fuck?
Then she retorts like, "I'll punch you in the nose." So it's
I love you. I love you.
She's like, "I'm tired. It's vague, and I want to go to bed."
Kind of I had to kick a guy in the shin because he talked into my ear too much. Like, yeah, she's done.
Yeah. Well, and she says, "You know what's wrong with you? Nothing." It's like, that's sweet. Okay.
That's sweet. After he called you a kid.
Yeah. However, George Kennedy's hook hand goes flying through the damn door.
Yeah, it's just like, holy shit. And then, so she gets Peter, and then they fight. And then George Kennedy, I think, escapes through the window, and Peter's like, I have to go fight him, and climbs on the side of the building, which was almost all Cary Grant climbing on the side of this building. So, good job.
And he's creeping. He's creeping and peeping at other
things, and there's like, yeah, it's great.
And they're complaining about it. Like the neighbors are just like, there's
like,
a peeper.
Oh my God, this peeper's back here for the third time this week. Anyways, yeah, so Cary Grant ends up walking in on the Tex, Herman, and Scobie bickering in the hotel room. Come to find out that it is implied that Peter was working with them.
He's a mole.
They're like, could you get the money? And he was like, no, but she trusts me. So, yeah, Herman's just not happy.
Well, and up to this point, we've thought Cary Grant is effectively, an endearing, neutral character. And you're like, nah, he's a mole. He's in with these bastards.
He's a little shit.
Yep.
60-something-year-old Cary Grant's a little shit in this movie. Yeah, so Peter's just like, all right, I'm going to get a room next to her. Peter goes back into her room, and then she feels comfortable enough to explain the entire situation over to him yet again.
Mr. Bartholomew, what I'm trying to say is that there's someone else.
What?
Someone who wasn't in that photograph you showed me today. He says his name is Peter Joshua, but it isn't. It's Dial. Are you still there, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, Miss Lampett. I don't know who this Mr. Dial is, but it's just possible we were wrong about who killed your husband.
You mean he might have? Mr. Bartholomew, I'm catching the next plane out of here. I'm not going to sit around for somebody to make chopped liver out of me.
And so she's like freaking out, and Peter's like, no, I'm not going to let them kill you. You can trust me, like, all that sort of thing. And then Herman calls her room from like downstairs and is like, yeah, that guy Dial, the guy that, I just fought. Yeah, don't trust him. Who? So she's like freaked out. So she's like even more freaked out now. She's like freaking. She's like, oh no, he's a room next to me. Like, just all the things. Not that long after, like, Cary, like, when, I'm just going to call him Cary Grant for a little bit because this whole name thing just gets really gross really quickly. Yeah, he, like, basically, like, takes a thread from his sock and just hooks it onto her door. That never comes back either.
No.
It's just there. She calls Bartholomew and is like, hey, his name is weird. Like, I think you guys fucked off. And he's like, what? He's like, even though it's midnight, why don't we go meet at the market? And she's like, okay. So she leaves, and then Cary Grant follows her. She knows this, so she fakes getting into a taxi. So at the market, which apparently does not exist anymore, Bartholomew's like, yeah, there's only one guy connected to this whole thing with, like, that last name, but he's dead. It's Carson Dial. He's fucking dead. He tells her a story. So basically, according to him, so the three men that we've seen, Carson Dial and then Charlie, stole a bunch of gold. In order to cover for this, you've covered the fact that they literally buried it. They said the Germans took it. The other four waited for the war to be over, but Charlie took the gold beforehand. So that's what the government's after, is that $250,000, which apparently is not from the apartment, but from this gold. You just have to go with it. I mean, I feel, it feels immoral bringing Giallo into this, doesn't it? You're going to beat the shit out of me. I know you're going to beat the shit out of me.
I'm just shaking my head right now.
I can't wait to piss. I can't wait. Like, after a few episodes ago, we were like, guys, quit gatekeeping. I'm just going to bring that in and, like, be the reason for gatekeeping.
God, why?
Go away.
Why?
Go away. And Reggie's just like, dude, I want to get out of here. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't have the money. I don't have any of this. And Bartholomew's like, no, you stay here. He was just like, just figure out who this, like, this guy claiming to be Dial is. Figure out what's going on with that. So it cuts to the next morning, and Cary Grant's trying to leave the hotel, and Reggie is trying to follow him, but, like, and almost gets caught. Ends up in a couple of funny situations, namely a German dude thinking that she's into him. And she calls him on the phone within the station and just, like, grills him. And then, so according to Cary Grant, Carson did not like this whole, like, gold stealing thing, and then he fooled the other three.
Because they're just like, the Germans have the gold. The 5-way split is kind of what the plan was.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah, but like basically, yeah, so
You won't be able to lie on your back for a few days.
Cary Grant is now claiming he is Carson's brother, Alexander. Yeah, I don't want to go along with those other three guys. I have them fooled. And then as she asks for a confirmation of his name, he just leaves.
There's these abrupt moments that they're really fun. I mean, I enjoy them.
He leaves, and then he ends up in the hotel with Herman, and they go to the rooftop stairs, and Herman just holds him at gunpoint and is like, okay, we're gonna wait. We're gonna sit and wait for a little bit. And then the elevator's finally locked, and he's like, all right. Dial just basically like makes sure Herman's hanging on just barely with his hook, and he leaves. Then Dial goes into Reggie's room, and he has this like massive, slash on his back, and it's just horrid. So she rips open his like shirt, just begins to clean it, and I'm just like, God, why would you? So she's trying to flirt.
Yeah, she's so kind of like pesky forward with him most of the.
Thank God. Yeah, I think another very iconic line where she's like, well, I don't want you to lie on your back, not that you can, but it seems you can lie from any position, really, or something like that.
You won't be able to lie on your back for a few days. But then you can lie from any position, can't you?
Comes in this scene, and they're poking fun at their age gap, and then they start kissing. That's how it goes. Tex calls Reggie's room and is like, hey, we kidnapped your nephew. You need to do something about this.
We got the kid. Where's that diaper money?
It's like,
I'm like, get that money.
Get the money. It's like, we need the money. We have your kid. Jean-Louis asks Tex if he's a real cowboy.
Are you a real cowboy?
Yeah, sure am, kid.
So where's your gun?
Will you put that thing away?
Because he has a gun, and I found that so cute. I was like, oh, okay, this is funny. So I imagine that was a little in-joke from Donen and Stone.
There's not many moments that are self-serious, which I think is what I really like about the movie. Like it has this, it just has like a levity and like a lightness to it, and everybody in the cast seems to kind of be on the same page, with exception of the heavy characters.
You know what I fucking forgot? When Reggie first enters the CIA office to see Mr. Bartholomew, there are two men that step into the elevator.
Yeah, who are they?
As she's going up.
Yeah.
As she's leaving. But they're like, I don't even know what they're discussing, but they're in there, so that's fun. Back to kidnapping and murder and all that sort of fun stuff. Yeah, so they're basically like in like this very tense room where there is a 7-year-old boy basically being kidnapped. Dial is like, well, what if one of you has the money? He like gaslights everyone. He's like, well, one of you could have the money. You're just not fucking telling us. So they're like, okay, let's search each other's room. And Herman gets very defensive and is like, no, you're not searching my room. I'm like, okay, buddy. So Tex and Gideon go through the airline bag for like the 3rd time this movie. And then they have like kind of a little funny exchange where they're like, yeah, I would tell you if I had the money. Naturally, I would tell you if I had the money. Reggie like frames to Jean-Louis that they're going to have a treasure hunt in like one of their rooms.
Suppose one of us has it, like the man says. Now, that'd be mighty distasteful. Us being veterans of the same war and all.
Well, I'd tell you if I had it.
Oh, naturally, just like I'd tell you if I had it.
Naturally. And that goes for Herman, too. Naturally.
And they find a very heavy briefcase on the top of a cupboard, a very tall cupboard. So when the kid goes and gets everyone else, Reggie's like, no, I didn't find anything. And then they find the briefcase, and it's actually just Herman's extra hand. That's all it is. And then they realize, hey, we haven't seen him in a while. I wonder where he went. And then they go, and then Dial is like, okay, well, he was in my room. So he goes into his room, and they find the bathtub fucking running. And he's like, okay, maybe Reggie and Jean-Louis, maybe you guys should leave. And they find Herman drowned in the bath. Just fully clothed.
And they show it.
Yeah, and that is George Kennedy under the water, so.
With his eyes open.
Yeah, that's not a fake.
No. That's kind of our second scare of the film.
Yeah, kind of our second, like, oh shit. Well, why don't we take him out of the bath and put him in the bed? with pajamas.
Yeah, what kind of psychopath stuff is that? And I'll tell you what, I'm just saying, when you wash the body and then you stage it, that's staging. That's not good.
That's horrible.
And they make it as if he's sleeping, but he's a drowning victim in the bed. And we don't ever really understand, why did they do this?
So they all four of them have to go talk to the inspector because he's like, there is a man drowned in his bed. This isn't right. And he's like, you have a fake name and I don't like that.
Yeah.
That's illegal here. And he's like, well, it's not illegal in America. So he's like, okay, well, none of you, and the inspector's like, okay, none of you are leaving until we get this whole thing fucking figured out because this is annoying. It's just really fun to see him get worked up. Here's an iconic scene where Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn are getting ice cream and talking about assassinations and dying and all that sort of good stuff. This is where they had to dub her over and like, and I think in some versions, instead of saying at any moment one of us could be assassinated, she says eliminated because it has to have the same amount of syllables.
Well, perhaps someone thought the 4 shares were too many.
What makes you think that this someone is going to be satisfied with 3? He wants it all, Alex. That means we're in his way, too.
That's right.
We've got to do something. I mean, any minute now, we could be assassinated. Would you do anything like that?
What, assassinate someone?
No, swing down from there on a rope to save the woman you love. Like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
They even talk about Gene Kelly during this because...
Oh, God, I wrote this down. I was like, Gene Kelly reference to dancing.
I was like, yeah, well, like, Stanley Donen have to have a Gene Kelly reference. So, which, like, was that shot in Paris? Was Singing in the Rain shot in Paris? I don't think so, but they go back to the hotel yet again. There's a lot of things happen in this hotel. For, like, a set with, like, no real rooms, there's a lot of stuff. She's like, are you sure you want to take a bath in there? Like, a guy just drowned in there. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna still take one and, like, you know, scream if you need anything. So the second he leaves, she just screams to get him in.
Yeah, there's a delay and then just a loud...
She just, like, yells. And I'm like, oh, I love you. You get, like, this fantastic line of, I can think of a dozen men who want to use my shower. Like, Audrey! Put your clothes back on. No. So Dial's just like, all right, well, if you insist. And he takes a shower fully clothed. I think that scene was improvised. I'm inclined to believe that was a little bit improvised by Cary Grant.
I think a 2-martini lunch might be something that happened.
I think so, yeah. And she's just laughing because we have to break this whole tension thing. And then in the middle of this, Bartholomew calls Reggie yet again and is like, hey, so Carson Dial doesn't have a brother. Like, we don't know what's going on. So just be careful. So her and Cary Grant, let's just call him Cary Grant for when, like, these name things get hairy. Because it's still I think it's Cary Grant. They go on a boat for dinner. And she's just all depressed again because she's just had another bombshell dropped on her of just like, oh, he's lying to me again. I know your name's a fake. Then he makes up another story just saying that, yeah, my dad wanted me to go to umbrella framing, but, like, I didn't want to do it, so I just ended up becoming a robber. So we get another fake name of Adam Canfield. She's like, well, he's a crook. And then he, like, basically says, okay, well, I like you back. And then she just drops everything, kisses him. So that's this is still the 1960s. So everyone, like, looks on the edge of the boat and then they start kissing and it's really sappy and whatnot. And then it cuts to Gideon getting this anonymous call at 3:30 in the morning that's just like, hey, go down to the lobby. Also in his pajamas.
Yeah, people start getting whacked out. Like, nobody lives long in this. Like, we really...
No one lives, like, more than, like, 10 minutes. Everyone just fucking die. It's like everyone's dropping like flies in this thing.
Which is great for a mystery type film, and it keeps the pace. Like, this feels feels more modern than plenty of other mysteries of this time period. So
I think so. Yeah, it ahead of its time. What if it's an American proto-giallo? What if Dario Argento watched this and was like, all right, I need to make Bird with the crystal plumage?
He didn't. Because he was busy making films. Because he was focusing on his craft. No, well, he was watching Crimmy. He was watching the German Krimi, which is truly the precursor, but
Yeah.
It's our Americanism just gets in the way because we have to be
involved in everything. We have to be balls deep in everything.
Get that diaper money. That's what these folks are after. That's it. Just get that.
So yeah. So the inspector has to come over to this hotel at like 3 a.m. and it's just like, what the fuck is going on?
You feel bad for him. He's the one guy that's just like, can we not have anything nice?
I just want to know what's happening. Because Bartholomew's not of any help. He's just dropping like information to Reggie that continues to scare the pants off of her. Yeah, it's like you guys have only had one scene together. Like one scene where you're in the same room. No, 2 scenes.
But he's called like 5 times, so.
So many times. And it's just like, please stop. It's like, God, this isn't Charlie's Angels. Please stop. So they're like, okay, well, since Gideon's now dead, Tex has to have the money. And then immediately after Adam gets a call, it's just like, hey, watch your back. I don't have the money. So it's like, well, fuck this. So they go through the airline bag yet again. And they're like, well, what if the tooth powder is actually heroin? And then Adam tastes it and is like, no, it's not. So cut to the next morning. Audrey's at work translating stuff. Adam's just there with her, and then they're like, and he's like, yeah, I found an agenda. It's like, it basically tells Charlie to meet up at a certain location at a certain time. And Adam's like trying to insinuate like, oh, but we need that money. And she's just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, it's not our money. The government like wants it back. And he's like, there is no law against stealing stolen money.
Adam, that money doesn't belong to us. If we keep it, we'll be breaking the law.
Nonsense. We didn't steal it. There's no law against stealing stolen money.
Of course there is.
There is?
Yes.
When did they pass such a silly law? Now think, Reggie, what was in that appointment book?
She's like, yes, there is.
Yeah, his moral compass gets into the gray.
So out of whack.
Yeah, it's...
so out of whack. Yeah, so Reggie is like in the middle of translating, and then like as he's kissing her, because of course, she's just like, oh shit, the agenda. She's like, oh yeah, the place. Like it's like this like little gardens where the puppet show was, and there's like a stamp market. Tex goes into the stamp market and realizes that maybe that stamped envelope does mean something. That maybe those stamps on there are worth money. And then Adam follows him and realizes this exact same thing. The two of them go back to the hotel, and Tex is like, the kid already ripped off like the 3 stamps on this fucking letter, so sorry.
Yeah, the stamp panic is set in full.
It's so real. Yeah, we have 20 minutes to go, by the way, so they think that Reggie fooled them and like took the stamps. So Tex is still like, okay, dude, she's in on this. But it's like, no, she's not. So, and then he's like, oh wait, and then Tex also was like, you killed the other 3, like for all this, whatever. So they're just, it's all sorts of tension.
You greenhorn. Why, you thick-skulled, harebrained, half-witted greenhorn. And they was both too smart for us.
What are you talking about?
Oh, first her husband, now her. She betted all of them big eyes at you, and you fell for it like an egg from a tall chicken. You want the envelope? There. You take it. It's all yours. You killed all 3 of them for nothing. You greenhorn, you block-headed jackass, you nincompoop.
Reggie ends up finding Sylvie in this park and is like, what's she doing? Hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh yeah, Sylvie's like, oh yeah, Jean-Louis, is at the stamp market. And it clicks. She's just like, oh, that's what's going on. So they run through and they find Jean-Louis, and he has this like giant thing of stamps. And they end up in like this tent with like, I guess like the head collector. His name is Mr. Felix. And he explains like the value of these 3 stamps, which I don't remember all of it, but like they're pretty like exotic, if I remember. And he's just like, oh, this is so cool. And Reggie's just like, I see no value in this, but good for you. He gives the stamps. So they pay for the bunch of stamps that Jean-Louis ended up with, and then Mr. Felix gives Reggie the stamps back, which totals up to $250,000. So to confirm that, yes, this is where the money was. Reggie goes back into the hotel for Adam.
And it's like in the carpet, sort of. So he just does that reverse carpet sort of thing you can do.
Yeah, but yeah, that's like our fourth dead body of the movie. Crazy looking shot of Jimmy Coburn suffocated.
Well, he has a bag on his head. I mean, it's a great, like, I was creepy. Like, Coburn is wrapped in plastic. Just literally. Like, oh man,
this is weird. Yeah, so she calls Bartholomew and is like, hey, Tex died. Adam did it. He's like, okay, we're going to meet at this place at like a theater. So, and she runs down, so she's running down the stairs and Adam finds her. So they begin chasing through the city and like this great chase scene. You know, they're staring at each other through like the train windows. I mean, it's like, this is fantastically shot. And again, it's all shot on set. It's all shot in the Paris subway. So she ends up hiding in a phone booth and calls the American embassy and is like, tell Bartholomew that there is, I don't know why she's like not calling Bartholomew directly for this one thing, but whatever. She calls the Bartholomew office and is like, hey, there's a guy trying to kill me. And then the operator is like, okay, well, he's out. And he's like, just forward this message to him when he gets a chance. Adam barely misses her at the phone booth, and she continues to follow him. The operator calls Hamilton Bartholomew. And it's a totally different guy from what we've seen this entire movie. Yeah, I don't know who Miss Lampert is. I don't know what any of this bullshit is, but just go ahead and call the French police because this sounds urgent. So that's how we get to know that Walter Matthau has been fucking lying the entire time about being Bartholomew.
Yep, it's a perfect reveal.
It is. Like, this is
it's really well done.
It is. It's fantastic. Yeah, Adam spots Reggie and like they again begin chasing through the city. They're through a bunch of columns. Actually, I think part of the reason they shot it there was because like they like said, I think Donen was like, yeah, like both Cary Gray and Audrey looked really good running.
He's a really big hulking guy, so he's trying his best to to do this at speed, like to keep the momentum, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they also said like they shot like this like when it was like super cold. So like off camera there were just like a bunch of little fires to keep everybody warm.
Well, and Coburn also in the sequence with him and Adam, he talks so much crap to Adam about like
he calls him all these names.
Yeah, he's like, you killed 3 people for nothing, Greenhorn. I mean,
it's amazing.
Coburn actually gets to have like, yeah, his impending death. He gets his lines in.
He's amazing. Well, they end up at a standstill between Adam and whoever this fucking guy is who's been lying to her. And apparently Bartholomew is actually Carson Dial, and he didn't die. He fucking he lived and like all this crazy stuff. And she just like screams and is like, I don't know who anyone is. What is going on? And then like as like they're both urging her like, you'll come with either of them, and like, and then Reggie's like, okay, but why do I trust you? And then Adam just looks at her and is like, I can't think of a reason to. And that kind of wins her over. For once he's being honest, I guess.
All the mean, rotten, contemptible, crooked.
Crooked? I should think you'd be glad to find out I'm not crooked.
You can't even be honest about being dishonest. Why didn't you say something?
We're not allowed to tell. Now, come on, give me the staff.
Well, there's a lot of gunfire going on as well. So this shootout chase is craziness.
Yeah, they end up in the theater and she hides under the stage, under like one of like the lights or whatever. Adam like ends up kind of backstage, and then Carson Dial, you know, the guy who's been fucking lying the entire time. I mean,
Adam and Reggie are together, so it's like, why did she separate into the theater?
I know, but whatever.
But we just go with it.
Yeah, we're used to this sort of thing. Yeah, so Adam's like backstage, and Bartholomew / Carson Dial's trying to find her. Bartholomew / Dial and ends his life, ends up dying because of the trapdoors. And that Adam's like figures out okay where he's standing, and then when he stops, he's like, all right, I'm gonna release the trapdoor. So you get what I think. So yeah, he just fucking falls and dies. And it's just not fun. So Adam and Reggie take a cab back and are like, and she's just like trying to get him to tell the truth. She's like, what have you put me through? So they go to the embassy next morning, and she's like, hey, where do I give back stolen government money? To like the Marine that's out there. And he's like, oh, you're gonna see Mr. Crookshank at the Treasury Department, or like whatever's in there. You know, Adam's like, I don't know if I can stand, you know, seeing money given back to the government or whatever. And so he's like, so he leaves, and she goes into Crookshank's office, and then Cary Grant's sitting there.
Yeah, the ultimate twist is just that it was me the whole time.
It was me the whole time. Yeah, so she is so pissed. This is the one time she's like genuinely angry. She's like screaming at him, and she's like trying to. So basically, his whole name, his real name, the entire time, this entire movie has been Brian Crookshank. He works for the Treasury Department. The entire reason Carson Dial was able to get into the offices is because they left them unlocked during lunch hour. But yeah, they basically agree to get married. And she just like starts kissing him again, and then there's like this little divided screen of all of his different personas or names, I guess. And then his Stanley Donen's favorite line was actually the last line, where like he's asking for the stamps back, but like because of the music, you can't really hear it unless you have like the closed captions on. So, but that's how the movie ends. They're gonna get married, and she wants to name all their sons. That's how this movie ends. It's fun.
It is a really fun movie.
Yeah, and again, it's public domain, so if you sat through this entire thing and like have not watched it,
we can go into some picks and recommendations. What are yours?
It's Fulci's Don't Torture a Duckling.
Excellent.
An actual giallo.
It's legitimately in the giallo.
And actually an actual giallo. And I wonder how many people will piss off by like calling Charade a giallo. Or like even just jokingly. I want to know. I guess there's only one way to find out. So yeah, Torture a Duckling. Figuring out who's killing a bunch of children in this rural Italian village, and it's creepy. One of my friends was like, yeah, you're not going to forget Barbara Boucher's introductory scene. And then it happened, and I texted him, and I was like, I'm going to kill you.
Well, and Duckling, it fits into the pastoral giallo because it's rural settings, so it's kind of fun.
Upsetting.
It's very effective. Mark Perel, I'm a big fan of. He unfortunately died young, but his performance as the priest is just impressive. It's an excellent film for Fulci diving right into the giallo, but doing his own thing. I think that's why we love it so much, is that he's doing something considerably different, and the twists and turns and the kind of use of society.
Yeah, I'm like, I think when I get around to like, because I'm like, these are all most of like my stuff from him is like all first time watches. So I think I'll be happy to like in the future be able to rewatch things because I know I'll get more out of it.
And there's so many sides to his directing also, which is super cool. I think that's what puts him in a special place. It's not just the zombie films, or he's not pigeonholed fully. The only thing that usually kind of separates the folks out is like some of his 50s and 60s lighthearted rock stuff. It's like he's making fun films. He's developing his craft there. It's not.
So yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling, one of my recommendations. Another one is the one that I was tasked to write an article about, as in I was like told expose or House on Straw Hill, also known as Trauma. Yes, it's a video nasty. Yes, it has Udo Kier. Yes, it has some borderline softcore scenes. And yes, it is so frustrating, but I have a really unhealthy relationship with this movie. This is Parker from the past saying, I don't know if this article will be published if by the time this episode comes out, because we're like recording this super early, just because life. I really enjoyed rewatching Expose and like figuring out, I liked how a lot of it leans into like power dynamics without being like super on the nose. I mean, the best part of that movie is Linda Hayden, by far.
Well, and Udo's pretty complex in it as well. So we do get a performance from him that's
not quite won over by him. I don't know. Knowing he had like come off The Story of O, which is a movie where he is extremely miscast, and like he was asked to be in this film because of that, it kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. But like, I mean, he does good with what's given. He does a good job, I think, with what's he's been given. He's just not the strong point.
No, Hayden is really everything.
She is. Finally, my third pick is 1982's Pieces, because I had to have something totally brainless to watch and laugh at. And I don't think that movie means jack shit, but I love how disgusting it is, and I'm okay with that.
The comedy and fun factor is so high with Pieces.
It's so fun.
And it does has kind of an infinite rewatchability enjoyment to it.
It's not competent, and that's okay, because that means it's made for people like us. So what are your 3 picks?
All right. Well, my first was a film with George Peppard called PJ from 1968. And Peppard was, I think, more notable for being on the A-Team and other TV work, some films and so on. This was just a knockdown detective kind of private eye story. And it has Raymond Burr, notable for Perry Mason, and Peppard's just completely lovable. It's one that hit me really off guard. I mean, it's a 4-star film to me or more all day long. I didn't see this coming at all. And there was recently a box set of Peppard's work, and I underestimated really what his range and abilities were. But it's one that I really enjoyed. That I really just was way off my radar.
Nice. Okay. I like watching him from time to time.
Interesting actor, because he can balance a post James Dean cool at times, but then he also has this really easy comedy talent.
Yeah, because I've seen him in the A-Team, and I've seen him in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He's fantastic.
So my second pick, this is again, super obscure, pain defined, but it's called Andrea from 1968 with Dagmar Lysander. And she's doing a thing that a little bit she does in The Laughing Woman, where she's using kind of her degree of, I guess, her sexuality in a powerful way, in which that she goes after anybody she wants and thinks that can be achieved. So it's one that was just more kind of tough to come by. I was interested because it's Dagmar, and so I want to see everything she's done.
Right.
But it was light. It definitely kind of felt it's melodrama. I mean, ultimately, this is not heavy in any way. There was a character that looked like Gordon Mitchell, young, that I thought was possible, but it wasn't. And so it's just, she's obsessed with this stable hand guy, and he has a girlfriend, and it just becomes this whole complex kind of thing. So yeah, Andrea. The third is a Peter Greenaway film called The Baby of Masson. Yeah, it's this really peculiar, strange play with this old lady that has this miraculous child that is not supposed to be possible, effectively. So
we call it the Immaculate Conception.
I don't know if it's offensive.
It definitely toes that line. It definitely, but that's just Greenaway being Greenaway. He's it's provocative.
Yeah, there's sequences at the end of this film that are tough.
Super. It's 2 hours or some shit.
It is. It's a longer.
It's a long movie, but it's intense.
One of the first Greenaway films that I saw, and so.
Okay, I haven't seen The Cook yet, and I'm so pissed.
It's better. I mean, that's a better, more.
I mean, yeah, but I liked Masson, so.
Like I said, Masson it's got a lot of neat stuff going on with it. It just is. It's a heavy film. I don't know how to.
You have to be in a certain headspace to process it. But yeah, it's a very visually stunning film as well.
And a huge cast. I mean, as far as large cast go.
Yes, very good, very good. Would you like to talk about next episode?
Yes.
Would you like to talk about it, because you're picking it?
Yeah, the next episode, we're going to The Lady with the White Glasses. This is going to be Lena Wertmüller's Love and Anarchy from 1973, starring Giancarlo Giannini. And he's on a mission to kill Mussolini until he gets mixed up with a bunch of boisterous group of workers at a local brothel that has Mariangela Mulatto, who I love a lot. So we're going to dig into her, one of her more notable films. It's like madcap fun that everything that could go wrong for Giannini's character does go wrong. So it's a high sympathy for him. And these ladies are just completely irreverent. Yeah, the amount of squawking Italian women that are just like yelling at each other and laughing in fascist Italy, no less, like verge of World War II. So things are strange in Italy at that time, and the people are too.
Very odd for like during Mussolini's Italy. Yeah, it's a place for sure. Anyone who's seen Del Toro's Pinocchio knows that. You get a history lesson from listening to this.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what really blew me away. Is like, I bet this is sort of rooted in some sort of historical relevance, and it certainly was.
I look forward to that, especially knowing that it'll be October by the time that episode gets released.
Horror Gives Back is going to be our thing.
It's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk a lot about. Yeah, I mean, as if we don't promote unsung horrors enough on this fucking podcast. Yeah. You need to do it.
Even if it's a small donation, or do your donation at the end of the month, perhaps. But it's really fun to see everybody's list because we try to all compile titles for the month.
Because I had it's like the one challenge I've actually done, and I had a very crazy time last year doing it. So, all right. We have a Discord. You can DM us. Don't be chicken. We know you're there. We know you're listening. We know you want to join. Come on. Get Discord. Come on. It's okay. We're not going to bite. We also have a blog spot we post to occasionally. It's mostly me writing articles for a film club here, but occasionally we'll get the idea to post something else. You can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram at parkit_BE. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_BMD. All right. See y'all next time.